It was another big night at the Democratic National Convention in the U.S. with Barack and Michelle Obama delivering headline speeches. The former president told fellow Democrats in Chicago the torch has been passed to Kamala Harris, and it's time to get to work to elect her as president.
It was the Obama's night, receiving a rock star welcome at the Democratic National Convention. Former President Barack Obama gave a rousing endorsement of Democratic presidential hopeful Kamala Harris.
We do not need 4 more years of bluster and bumbling and chaos. America's ready for a new chapter. America's ready for a better story. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
Both Obamas strongly criticized Republican candidate, former President Donald Trump.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago. It has been a constant stream of gripes and grievances that's actually been getting worse now that he's afraid of losing to Kamala.
For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of 2 hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black.
Kamala Harris will formally accept the party's nomination for president at the convention on Thursday. It will make her the first woman of color to lead a major party presidential ticket. After radically reshaping the presidential race to get behind Harris, and with the support of key figures like the Obamas, Democrats are buzzing with the themes of hope and change.
Yes, she can.
Our former Washington correspondent, Amian Isuf, is following all this and joins me now in the studio. Amian, the prospect of Kamala Harris running against Donald Trump for president has re-energized the Democratic Party. Barack and Michelle Obama tried to amplify that energy in their speeches. What do you make of all that? What are your main takeaways from day 2 of the Democratic National Convention?
Well, it was the night of the charismatic leaders at the DNC. That's because the Obamas are still very popular. The 2008 election, the sweeping election of Barack Obama, was the biggest moment in my memory for the Democratic Party, and they want to present Kamala Harris as a repeat of that big game night, that big victory that gave a lot of people the hope. I mean, that was Barack Obama's selling point, always the hope and the change that was on all of his signs, and he brought that out along with his very popular wife, Michelle Obama. Their pitch was that Kamala Harris represents this hope that they represented well over a decade ago. So that was their pitch. They also really went after Donald Trump
exactly
tonight, or in the last. It wasn't tonight. It was the night in the U.S. But yeah.
Exactly. The Obamas focused very much on Donald Trump in their speeches. I'm just wondering what that's all about. Now, obviously, that's preaching to the converted inside the convention hall. But what's the point of such messages? Were they trying to reach beyond the convention hall to undecided voters? Do you think it appeals to them?
Well, of course, they got big cheers when they went after Donald Trump in the hall, registered Democrats cheering them on when they attacked Donald Trump. They pitched it as, we are the big tent party of adults, of decency, and Trump represents this strain of anger, misogyny. Michelle Obama called him ugly, misogynistic, said he had he always gave racist lies. Barack Obama talked about his childish nicknames as a substitute for real ideas. So their pitch was that we are the party of adults. But that pitch was actually, in my opinion, also to the independent voters and also Trump supporters who are starting to give up on this politics of grievance. We saw a speech from his former press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, who said that this kind of mean-spiritedness that he uses to attack his enemies, he also talks about his supporters like that behind closed doors. She said that was her first-hand account. So there are a lot of Republicans out there who look back to the former years of the Republican Party and say, I want to go back to this kind of decency. The problem there, though, is there is a lot of grievance in the United States. There are a lot of people who are fed up with the way things are going, who know that their lives were better off before the inflation, before the pandemic, and they want real policies to address those issues.
Well, there is a lot of emotion in this presidential campaign on both sides. What about substance? What about policy, particularly with Kamala Harris? What is she offering to help get herself across the line?
Well, she is in a very strange predicament here. It's not unique in American politics, but she's the sitting vice president. So she is part of the current administration. So while the Obamas are presenting her as hope and change, she actually represents the establishment at this point. So she needs to distance herself from the unpopular policies of Biden while at the same time presenting her policies. So far, it's been light on that. The Obamas and everybody else are doing the work of building her character up so voters get to know her, but the real hard policies haven't dropped. She does have a line on abortion, very unpopular, that because of the Supreme Court, the way that Trump set it up with his nominees, abortion has been left to the states to decide. And she says she wants to turn that into law in the U.S. So taking away from the court and saying it's protecting women's rights by law. But she hasn't really dropped her big policies yet. We're expecting that in the coming days. Tim Walz is her running mate. He's supposed to speak at the next day of the convention. And on Thursday, that's her big day, where she'll give her speech and hopefully present some policies to address the grievances of Americans.
Thank you so much. Our correspondent, Amin Isif.